Hi guys, welcome back to Fandom Family Chats. I'm your host Maureen, and we are joined with our co-host Amanda.
Hello.
And Bethany.
Hi.
And today our very special guest is John Cabrera from Gilmore Girls. He is our resident Brian Fuller.
Hi.
We are very excited to have you today, and this is going to be a different style interview because we can't pick your brain on the whole series. And we can't give you any information past season 2 finale.
Correct. You can't. No, that would be spoiling me. I have not watched the show past the season 2 finale, which I am currently watching with fans of the series, and we just got to season 2, or just finished season 2.
That's awesome.
Season 3 on Monday.
Season 3 picks up on Monday, right?
Pick up on Monday, yeah. And Brian's first appearance, Van's first appearance, is on Thursday, which is June 3rd, which I hear is an important day, but I don't know why.
A couple different reasons. Amy Sherman Palladino threw that bone in there a couple different times. So
yes.
Just savor the fact that it's happening on June 3rd.
That was really complete coincidence. It just happens to be that we finished season 2 just this past Sunday, and then I forced us into a hiatus that we're calling Hiatus Week, just so that we could try to recapture that feeling of like anticipation before a new season drops. Just like that. Like kind of, even though everyone except me has seen it already, but I wanted to kind of do this can't wait. So we did this full week, which is actually, we're still meeting every day, and there's events happening every day. There's like a trivia night. Well, now it's turned into a day, trivia breakfast. We just watched the unaired pilot yesterday.
I wanted to do that with you guys so bad, but I couldn't figure out where to watch it.
Well, we have, if you go to, we have an app for this project.
I have the Clubhouse app.
I do.
Okay.
I have it
too.
too.
The Clubhouse app is what you need in order for us to meet. But the project itself, I built us an app. You can get it at remarkist.com. That's the name of the project, Remarkist. Remarkist.com. And right now it's a scheduling app. It's going to grow into much more than that. But it has all of our events, and on the detail pages of each, if, like, for example, the unaired pilot, if it's viewable at a specific location, then the link's there. So last night we were all watching it from this website. So you could have gotten the link to that website on the Remarkist app. And it was wild. Like that was really, really, really interesting. First of all, we watch the episodes, and then we talk about it for about 45 minutes. And last night's was really interesting because we spent a lot of time talking about Suki, about what if it hadn't been Melissa? What if it had been Alex? And of course, the initial instinct from the group is like, oh my God, that's just I could never imagine anyone other than Melissa, and that and Alex was just terrible, and then like the more we talked about it, the more we were like, it probably would have worked. It would have just been a very different Suki, and we would have come to love her as much as people love her on Maisel. I mean, she's an amazing comedian, amazing actress, talk about that. But then we got to talk about Dean, and then that was a real uncomfortable conversation.
It usually is.
But it's been a blast, and it's been so interesting. I feel so lucky. I feel like I'm not nearly giving back what I'm getting in return by watching with fans, because I just get so much more than I would get if I was watching this by myself.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's true. For the record, I feel the same way when I watched it. Yeah, because we knew season 7 was the last one, so I had just come out of college. I don't know what our age difference is, but I had just come out of college when season 7 aired, and so we decided to be real Gilmores, which I don't recommend to any human on the planet because you'll vomit for days. But we had Doritos and pizza and donuts and licorice and a boatload of espresso and we had one friend who was just like trembling.
Red vines.
We did have red vines, but some of us
there's a
like
distinction.
red vines.
Yes.
I don't personally like either one, so I just got both. Because there was a dividing line between the people that were there.
Yeah. Well, red vines, I mean, would most people on the show, most people watching the show know what red vines are? I knew what red vines were because, and I feel like this might have been an inside joke, red vines are like the staple on any craft services table on film sets.
Oh.
Yeah, like if you go to the area where, like, you know, where they've just got like a little table of snacks and food for the actors and the crew, there's always a massive tub of red vines. Even if there's nothing else there on the table, there's just a big tub of red vines. And that's become like sort of like in the industry, like you just know about it. And I wonder if that was part of the joke, that they put those red vines in there, because a lot of the fans were like, I'd never heard of red vines before this, you know. I knew Twizzlers, but like, red vines, yeah.
For my birthday
this year, thing to do.
For my birthday this year, that's what we did. We watched strategic episodes, like birthday episodes or of Gilmore Girls, and just did the whole thing. We just planned the whole menu with the red vines and the Scotty P's coffee and all the other treats that, you know, Rory and Lorelai always eat. And so we kind of did that. So I know what Maureen's talking about. Definitely something you don't want to do every day, but it was so cool. I still have like a lot of red vines left over, so I'm gonna go home and have some.
Don't eat too many.
Just yeah, very good advice.
Well, so if I keep wanting to call you Brian, and every time I'm talking in our chat, everyone I keep calling you Brian.
Everyone does it. I'm used to it now. I was hoping this project was going to, like, you know, like that people would just start to really come to know John, but I've realized that it's very difficult to shake Brian.
It is helping because when I've been in the rooms on Clubhouse, your name is John, and when you speak, John, so now I'm associating a little bit more with John rather than Brian. So
good.
But if you've never seen this before, what inspired you to do this rewatch, especially in this way?
Well, a few things. One, well, I've been wanting to watch the show for a long time. I didn't watch the show when it was on the air, which is not an uncommon thing for actors to not watch the shows that they're in. If you think about it, it makes sense. It's work. You know, like, so, you know, when the whistle blows and you come home, like, you don't want to dive back into work. You want to like hang out with your friends and think they're like not related to what you just did. So the idea of watching Gilmore Girls was just not something that was really on my mind back then. But it's been 15 years. There's a real newness to it now that I can come to it with. And so I'd been thinking about wanting to watch it for a while. I'd even been telling my wife, like, you know, I need to just sit down and just start from the beginning and watch it. She's like, oh yeah, I'll watch it with you. And so that was on my mind. Then I had my daughter, and I was thinking, like, gosh, if she watches it before me, like that can't happen, you know?
You'll never live that down.
Yeah. And so, which I just had this feeling that it would happen if I didn't. And then, like, you know, I don't know if you all know about fan festivals that happen, or the Gilmore Girls fan festival that's been happening several years now. It's been rebranded to the
Fan Fest,
the Fan Fest Society. But you know, I've been participating those since they began. I've been to most of them, and my relationship with the fans at those festivals is very different than what you would you know, as an actor, what you would experience at like a con, where you're just sort of sitting behind a table and you're just like going through a never-ending line of folks wanting your autograph. At this festival, you know, you're walking around, you're meeting people on the streets, you're having conversations, you're at bars, people are, you know, and I was starting to feel like I was developing something more like a friendship with the fandom rather than this sort of actor fan thing. Except that there was this one thing that we didn't have in common, and that was I had never seen the show that they loved so much. And so while I had this like very specific relationship to Gilmore Girls, it was very different from theirs. And I was getting more and more this urge to bridge that divide, because when you're developing a friendship with somebody, you kind of want to know what they love. You want to understand what they love. And I was kind of dancing around the questions of, like, you know, oh, what do you think of this on the show or that on the show? And I really just didn't have an answer because I hadn't seen it. And I wanted to be able to have an answer. So this project was largely inspired by that. And I, I also will say that all of these like rewatch podcasts, which are becoming very popular right now, they actually began with, I don't know if you know the podcast Office Ladies.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
it's my favorite.
Jenna,
Amanda and I are big Office fans.
Yes.
yeah, so Jenna is a friend of mine. She's a very close friend of mine. Her husband is one of my like closest college friends, and so she's part of my close circle of friends. And I remember when she and Angela began that podcast, and I was when Jenna told me about it, I actually thought that what she was doing was watching the shows in real time. You just wouldn't be able to hear the audio of the show, but they would be speaking while the show was playing. And then afterwards you could just sync your episode up with their audio track, right? Like almost as if they created like audio commentary. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's such an awesome idea. Like, so it's simple and fun. Well, it turns out that's not what they do. They watch the show, and then the podcast is them just talking about it. And so I think a lot of all of that stuff that was in my mind came together. Want to watch the show. I'd like to sort of bridge this divide that I have with the fandom. I kind of love this idea of like watching and then chatting while you're watching and creating this almost social DVD commentary track. And all of that just came together, and I was like, I should just watch it with fans. First of all, they know the show better than me. Like, I can provide stupid stuff like, oh, that wall's not real, or the snow is made out of paper, but they could give me really, really great insight, not just me, but anybody listening. And that's exactly what's happened. I mean, we watch it, and every night I feel like the conversation that happens during the episode, and people are allowed to speak while we're watching it, like that's sort of thing. And people are pretty good about like trying to like put in their, their 2 cents in between dialogue to not disturb it too much.
That's gotta be difficult.
Yeah, and it doesn't work all the time. And people can turn the volume down if it gets a little too rowdy and stuff. But some of the insight that people have about things and little stuff that they point out and whatnot is just really fun for me, and I have to imagine fun for folks who are listening in on it.
Yeah.
So it sounds fun.
How it started, yeah.
That's awesome.
Because I mean, the great thing about Gilmore is it's constantly attracting new fans.
Yes.
Like my daughter she's gonna be 11, and she is in love with this show. Yeah. But I've been watching it for 21 years. So for me, like, and every year I go through a rewatch. At least once a year I rewatch the whole thing. I begrudgingly watch A Year in the Life, but I still watch it because it's Gilmore Girls.
So, is that a spoiler?
Nope. A Year in the Life is just the newer one that you were in, the 4.
No. I'm saying.
No.
Am I gonna hate it?
No, that's a great divide.
No.
People love it or you hate it. Those are your options.
I absolutely love it.
I've seen one. I watched Winter because
you cheated.
Well, because I was invited to the premiere.
Oh, that makes sense.
That was like a big premiere. So I watched it. I kind of got what was going on, but like, in the context of it all, it like didn't really totally sink in. But
I suppose that was the first one.
It's gaining new fans, including me, right? Yeah. Like I'm now truly becoming an actual fan of the show, which is really weird because I was on it, and so I have this like dual relationship with it now. It's really it's really bizarre but fun.
And it's so brilliantly done. So the people who've been watching it for years have done so many rewatches of it that you guys are real people. Like the characters are real people. They're not fiction.
I've had to come to terms with that. I spend a lot of time in your living room, but you never spent any time in my living room.
That's true. Yeah.
That's the weird discombobulation, So but now in a weird way, that's what's happening with this project, with this Remarcus project, is that I get to have fans in my living room now.
Yeah. I was on one of those in the Clubhouse, and I heard your theory for what's coming. Is the Sophie theory?
Was it my joke theory? Yeah.
That was a joke? You sounded so serious. I was like, I wonder if he really thinks that this is where it's going.
Oh, no. That's my like running gag. Well, it's not really a gag. I actually have lots of, because I love love to theorize. I was a huge Lostie, and I used to have a Lost blog, and I love shows where communities come together and they just break it down and chat about it. And I realize that I'm talking to a bunch of people who have seen it all. And so there's no theory that I could throw out there that they're going to actually be like, oh, that's a really interesting theory. I wonder if that's going to happen. And most of the time they're like, well, let's see. But I'm doing it all the time. Like, for example, I theorize that the final episode of season 2 is going to be Suki and Jackson's wedding. Got it right. Cha-ching. I theorize that the finale of season 2 is going to be a really big Christopher and Lorelai moment. I theorize that like mid-season. Totally got it. Cha-ching. And early on, I theorized something about Rory potentially having a sibling through Christopher and another woman, and that so far seems to be playing out. So I'm feeling really good about that theory. But it's fun. I throw those out, and then they're all like, "We're not saying anything." But then then I had this theory about Sophie and Lane, which was really a joke because, of course, I know that it's real because I was in a storyline that would not make it real. But my whole theory was that Sophie and Lane were going to develop this like classic Joseph Campbell style mentor-mentee relationship, like a Yoda and a Luke Skywalker, or like, or like Mr. Miyagi and Daniel, where like she's like begging Sophie, like, teach me drums. So Sophie's like, you're not ready for drums. And like throughout the season, they're like, she's like, okay, you want to learn drums? Let's learn drums. And then it would like, arc to this like epic season finale where like Lane is playing her first like huge stadium show or something like that. And of course everyone was like, oh, good theory, John.
To be fair, that would be kind of awesome. So I mean,
yeah. I mean, look, if I was in the writer's room, I would have pitched it.
So I know, gosh, I guess about 5 years ago now, prior to the release of A Year in the Life, I know that in the Austin Television Festival, there was definitely a reunion that took place with the cast. And I heard that even Hep Alien performed a concert in Austin. How was that? Can you tell us the experience?
Yeah, so they called us up. So we knew we were going to be doing that festival. They'd already kind of mentioned that to some of us, so we kind of knew that was coming up. And then as it was approaching, the festival reached out to Todd, to me, Todd, Keiko. Sebastian wasn't able to attend, but reached out and said, what do you think of the idea of doing a secret show? Wow. Like we, your classic like secret show, which is like a big big rock thing, to just show up somewhere. And we were like, oh my God, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So we met for like 2 weeks, and we just practiced, in like it was really very similar to the way that we practiced all of the songs that we did on the show itself. And we practiced, and then we showed up there, and they didn't tell anybody that it was happening. We kind of rehearsed early in the morning, so a few folks who were walking by that area in Austin, I don't know if you know that little area that we did it at, but it's supposedly it's an area that a lot of folks know. And folks walked by, and then it started spreading around the festival.
Oh, like, wow.
There's something going on. I just saw John Cabrera and Todd Lowe and Keiko over, and they were there with a band. Is there something going on? And then, but then suddenly, like, we went there, and then the word got out throughout the festival, and people were jumping in cabs, like hailing cabs, begging to jump into a cab of somebody else's, like got there. And then it was crazy. It was like Beatlemania. There was a massive crowd of people that went all the way out to, to the far end of this little park area where we did it, and it was cool. I mean, I can't really describe it more than just it felt like we felt like rock stars, more so than we'd ever felt while we were on the show. Because we really did, like, we came out and people were screaming and we were walking through all of that.
Yeah.
And we hadn't experienced that on the show. I mean, on the show, you're just on set. There's a bunch of camera people and whatnot. But that was the first time that Hep Alien, for me, Hep Alien felt real, like a real band.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, the cool thing is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Parks and Rec. They actually have a band too, Mouse Rat, that the characters put together. And I just found out recently that they're releasing an actual record, and they're going on a real tour. Yeah, with Chris Pratt. And I'm thinking, why can't Hep Alien do the same thing? That would be fantastic.
I would be up for it. I would be up for it. So would Todd. I'm sure Keiko would as well. I don't know if our resident rock legend would put down his...
Sebastian Bach can do anything.
I don't know if he would put down his cameo right now in order to... I don't know if you've ever... Have you watched any of Sebastian Bach's cameos?
No.
I've seen one.
They are works of art. They are
I know the
masterpieces of...
The one I've seen is good.
They're absurd and amazing. But I mean, I would love to. That would be amazing. The only problem that I could see is that I don't actually play the bass.
That was my next question. It's very convincing.
Just pretend.
I mean, I could probably learn. I could, if we have enough time, I could learn all of the songs. I mean, the bass is not that difficult. But while on set, I mean, all of that you heard was played real there on set. None of it was playback. We didn't record it in the studio or anything like that. It was all real. It was all on set. However, me and Sebastian had somebody actually playing right off camera. So it was actually their guitars that you heard, even though it was being played there in the room and captured there in the room. We weren't the ones that were actually playing it. I think I probably could have played some of it, because I had to learn the actual frets. Like I had to learn fingering for the guitar so that it looked real. And I would say some of the songs that I learned, I think sounded decent. I'd say decent enough. At least they sounded probably like a young amateurish band living out of their apartment. So I think I could probably learn enough songs that we could do a little tour. I would love that. I don't know what the logistics of that would be, though. I mean, the property's owned by Warner Brothers. Like, would they allow it? How would it? It's hard to really know. But I think that the fans would love it. That's what
Absolutely.
I think the fans would ask for it. If it was out there, I think the fans could come together, and if enough spoke up, it could be something that would happen, and everything else will take care of itself. You
could play in Seventh-day Adventist
There you go.
church.
I mean, I don't doubt that the fans have that kind of power, to be honest. I think that they probably do. Fandoms are becoming more powerful, a more and more powerful part of the entertainment industry than they were even 10 years ago. They drive what studios create now. They drive, or sometimes even drive the narrative itself. And so, and I don't doubt that the fans had some part in A Year in the Life, like had some part in making it worth doing.
Absolutely.
I think. I mean, I don't know. Netflix was definitely buying a lot of things, but they put a lot into that show, more so than into like Fuller House or any of that. They really made that a big thing, and I think that was probably the fans that inspired that.
I think so too. And I did hear that some of the makings of A Year in the Life, at least beginning talks, did take place at that same festival where the cast was reunited. Is that true? Was that kind of everybody coming together and saying, hey, we really want to be a part of this. We want this to happen?
I don't think so.
Really?
No, because I think that it's already somewhat common knowledge that Amy already knew.
Yeah,
gotcha.
She was already in talks with Netflix at that festival, and in fact, I think that had they been a little further along in their talks, that maybe Amy was thinking that could have been a potential place to announce it. But they weren't far enough ahead in their talks, and so she couldn't. And so when asked about it, she said that there wasn't anything in the works. But I think that there was. I think it's common knowledge. I could be wrong, but
no, that makes sense.
But I think certainly what was known is whether that the ATX festival had happened or not. I think what was already there was a cast of actors who were ready to do it. And I think
awesome.
Amy knew that.
Mm-hmm. I think so. You could just see, like, even on stage during the panel, and you could tell that there was, that essence of family among the cast. And even if you all hadn't been together in so long, it's that you can see it in the show, and you can see it in events like that as well.
Yeah.
There's just a great sense of family there.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
That's awesome.
We do edits on our Facebook group for like birthdays or contest winners, whatever. And when we do those edits, we always use pictures from the show, and then we capture it with something. The ones of you guys playing at that festival are one of my favorite ones to use, because the light is really nice in there, but you guys are like rocking out on that stage. And those are one of my favorite
those
ones
are some good photos. I have to say, those are some good photos. I can't remember who took those things, but like we just look like real indie rock stars. Indie rock star. I mean, really, like that memory is just burned into me. And Amy and Dan were there. They were sitting in the front row.
Oh, that's awesome.
Afterwards, we all went out to some local restaurant in the area that was like really popular, and had some queso and some queso, not just big bowls of queso. we were just drinking.
Only way to celebrate in Texas.
And it was just awesome. You could just feel how proud they were of that and of what they saw, and it felt really good. And those pictures just really look exactly how it felt. They really do. They just nailed it. I don't know who took those pictures, but.
Well, if you didn't actually play the bass, what was your audition like when you were auditioning to play a bass player?
I had what's called a space bass.
I don't know that it. My husband's a musician. I feel like I should know that, but I don't know.
A space bass is an invisible bass.
Oh, the air bass.
We call it an air bass. You would call it an air bass. Most people in the acting world, we call it a space bass, because we call them, like, in acting training, you call them space objects, which are just like these, like, it's basically pantomiming. Yeah. I had I went in, and I don't know if you know this, probably some of your fans, your members know that Sean Gunn and I are very close friends.
Yes,
that's awesome.
You know that? Yeah, we've been friends.
We love Kirk.
We went to university together. I mentioned that, like, I have a little group of friends from college that, like, Jenna's husband is a part of. So is Sean.
Weren't you roommates with him or something like that?
Yeah,
that was in our trivia. I used to do the trivia for Gilmore Girls, and that was one of the.
We were roommates. We were roommates. His last year in Chicago before he moved to Los Angeles, we founded a theater company together in Chicago.
Oh wow!
And just we were like best friends throughout. I mean, still are. But throughout our college, university, like, especially theater schools, have like groups of people sort of clumped together. And begin dreaming what they're going to do once they leave school, which usually involves, like, start a theater company, create a film, all of that stuff. So Sean was a part of that. And anyway, so close friend here in Los Angeles in the early part of our careers, around the time when I was, right just before auditioning for Gilmore Girls, auditioning for lots of other things. All of us were, including Sean, because at that time he was, or shortly before that, he was not yet a regular on the show. Yeah. So he was still a what we call recurring character.
Mhm.
So because of that, he could audition for lots of other things.
Yeah.
And he auditioned once. This is going to be a long, rounded story that gets you to answering the my audition question. But we would always like share audition stories with one another, you know. And one day myself, him, and then Judy Greer. I don't know if you know Judy. She's also another friend of ours as well. We were all chatting about an audition that he had, where he was doing a scene out on like a New York sidewalk, and in the middle of the scene, which wasn't in the script, he just walked over to a hot dog stand, and while talking ordered a hot dog and started eating the hot dog in the scene, like what we call a space hot dog. And he just sort of eating the hot dog while doing the scene. And we were all just like blown away by this. And we started calling anytime you go in and create a space object that isn't there and make it a part of the scene, we call that a space hot dog. So then we all just started like, you know, trying our best to put space hot dogs into any auditions that we had, like as sort of a way to just make, because the audition process is grueling and it's not fun at all. At least it wasn't for me. And so you just like look for ways to just make them more interesting. And for the Gilmore Girls audition, my space object was this base. My space hot dog was this base that I brought in. And really held it like the whole time. And then in the scene, I can't remember, I'm going to watch the scene. I don't even really remember what it was, but there was a reason why I would keep taking my base off and then putting it back on, like as if I thought the rehearsal was over, but it wasn't. So then I would put it back on and then take it off. And if I remember correctly, Brian doesn't have a lot of lines in the scene, in that first scene. So they're all speaking. So I had to just be doing something. So I was just taking this bass on and off. And then afterwards, the director was like, "Do you even play the bass?" I was like, "No, sir, I do not." I was like, "But I can sing." And he was like, "Well, that's an instrument too, I suppose." I guess they thought it was an instrument enough that they cast me, and I guess they liked my space hot dog. So I ended up getting it. I also, after the audition was over, I was lingering a little bit, and Todd went in, right, like shortly after me, and I knew he got that role, because I could hear them in there just rolling over with laughter, which also got me a little nervous, because I was like, man, they didn't laugh for me nearly that much. But then he came out and I was like, "Oh, you got that role, man." He was like, "Oh, really? You think so?" I was like, "Yeah, you got it." And then on set, when I saw him, I was like, told you you got it.
I think one of my favorite first lines of yours was when Todd Lowe says to you, his deviated septum or he's breathing is louder than the music, and you said, "It's my deviated septum. All the women in my family have it."
Oh yeah. Wow, you're right. That's borderline spoiler, because I'd forgotten that line until you said it.
I hadn't seen past season 2, but that was your voice, so that I don't feel so bad about that.
You said it.
Oh man.
I have to stick to my questions, or I'm gonna give away so much to you. It's really difficult.
Oh.
So before you did your audition, and even after you got the callback of, "Hey, you got the role," did you do any research on Gilmore, or did you hear anything about Gilmore before any of this process?
Oh, of course, I knew all about it, because Sean was on it by that point.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And because Sean and I were, hanging out all the time, I would hear things like, I think they might be interested in hiring me as a regular on the show. My role is getting bigger. Oh my gosh, really cool stuff's happening. I remember when a film by Kirk happened.
That is my favorite thing in the whole world.
I remember watching, I don't know how he got it, but I remember watching a VHS of the full film, like which they don't show on the episode. I think you can see the full film on the documentary or on the DVDs. which is just a little bit longer. And I so I remember being like, oh my gosh, that thing is amazing. Like I think that could easily launch your
Yes.
career, that thing. And so I knew a lot about it, and then also part of why I auditioned for the show was part of it. Although, I don't want it to sound like I was on the show just because of Sean, but I do think that Sean's being on the show helped me navigate to be in a place where I could, at the very least, audition for the show.
Yeah.
Recently Amy and Dan heard me tell this story, and they kind of interpreted it as like, oh, Sean helped me get a role. And they were like, dude, we hired you because we thought you were really good. Like, and I was like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that, like, because he was on the show, I met the casting director at a party. If I hadn't met her at that party, she might not have been interested in bringing me in to audition in front of Amy and Dan, right? And so there is a little bit of serendipity and knowing, having relationships with people that help, in ways that you don't know, not necessarily like, hey, hire my friend, but you meet people through the friends that you have. And so I met the casting director at a party that I was at, largely because Sean was there and whatnot. And she came to see me in a play that I was in at the time. And then afterwards was like, I'm going to try and find something for you in the show. I think that you would really, you'd really be great here. And so I auditioned for at least one other role. I think that I auditioned for 2 other roles, but at least one other role in the show. A character that I haven't seen yet. I don't really know what it is. I don't know how it fits in, but it's some person on a yacht, like a brother and sister, and the brother, and he says something about, he uses the word manticore at one point. And it's some, I'm sure you're all blanking on it, because I'm probably not doing a good job of explaining what it is. I'm sure some of
I thought I knew who it was for a minute, but then you lost my manticore.
Yeah, maybe that was a line that was written out and we're thinking of what he's talking about, and that didn't happen after all.
No, I think that the line manticore is still in there.
Is it?
Yeah, and that was because the way that in my audition, the way I said manticore really gave Dan Palladino a tickle. And so he remembered me when they were auditioning for Brian, because he remembered, oh, that guy, the manticore guy, even though I think it's still in there.
Oh, I know exactly what scene you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, it's like a brother and sister. They're like upper crust, some yacht type thing. And anyway, so yeah. And so then I came in, and actually that role had a lot more lines than the Brian role did on that episode. So when I then came in to audition for Brian, I think there was a part of me that was kind of like, oh, this role only has one line, And of course, Brian ended up being in 37 episodes, and the manticore guy just had that one scene. So
that one scene, you absolutely got it better.
Yeah, so that's just a lesson. There are no small parts. That they say that, like, there's no small parts, only small actors. That's kind of a little saying in the industry. But it's true. You shouldn't judge a role by just how many lines it has, because you'll be surprised. I mean, look at Sean. Begins as like a character that doesn't even have the same name.
Yep.
And I don't think he would have expected in that first episode that he would become, one of the main characters on the show. So
absolutely.
No, with his role as Mick, he was like a fan favorite, right? And that's why they rewrote Kirk for him. Is that accurate?
I don't know if that's. I don't know. That maybe. I had always thought that it was just he was an Amy and Dan favorite, that they really loved what he was doing, and they put him in again, and they just really liked him. And the more they worked with him, this happens often in television, is that the writers start to write to the strengths of an actor, and the storyline starts to develop, and the character starts to develop largely because the writers just start to know what to do with them. And I think they probably learned early on with Sean, they learned that he was really versatile and that they could do a lot of really interesting things with them. And so they just got really into.
Boy, did they play up that angle.
Yeah.
They did.
I won't give anything. Oh man, it's so hard to not say stuff.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that y'all are respecting the noob here.
The no spoilers. You're good.
You have to come back on after you've watched it all.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm happy to do that. Happy to do that. I mean, I love it. I really am. I really truly am becoming a legit Gilmore Girls fan. It's so weird, but like I love the show. Love it. That season 2 finale was just awesome. The Jess kiss when she just like jumps on him, you know, I was like, what?
And then she says, "Don't tell anybody." Like,
I know. That was really wild. Yeah, Rory just get out of her comfort zone.
I think Paris Geller, Liza Wheel, was my favorite part about that episode. The neuroticism coming through at full force. That was my favorite part.
Well, Paris is just that character is just gold.
Absolutely. What's your favorite, I guess, scene so far of the first 2 seasons from this side of the camera? What have you seen so far?
To add to that, are there surprises or like any dislikes that you had about it too?
Oh, that's true.
Dislikes? Well,
none.
Yeah. Well, there's not. I mean, nothing that I dislike about the show. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But I will say that I have a different take on characters that I didn't know about, but kind of had a feeling I knew. Well, for example, and I'm going to get in trouble here. I'm just convinced I'm going to get in trouble. Your members are going to all hate me after I say it. Not all of them, but I'm going to say a majority of them will, because that's the tone that I've been getting lately.
Oh.
I have a team. It's not the team I expected that I was going to be on. I'll just say that.
Now you need to tell us what team you're on. That's usually a question we ask.
I'm Team Dean.
Oh,
sorry.
I'm Team Dean. I'm Team Dean, and I would not have expected that. I would have thought I was going to be Team Jess. I have a Team Jess sweatshirt here. No joke. The fan festival asked me, "Do you want some swag? We've got some swag for you." And I was like, "You know what? I'll take a Team Dean or a Team Jess sweatshirt."
Jess sweatshirt.
I'm gonna take a team because he seems cool, and I want to be on the team of the cool one. You know, I want to be on the cool team. And so I got a Team Jess sweatshirt, and I would say almost from the get-go, I was liking Dean. And I realized that he does change. That season 2, there's a big change in the character. He starts to become much more clingy. He starts to get a little louder and a little more, he starts to get whiny and sulky. All of these things that I get, right? But right. I see all of those things as character flaws. I see them largely as a guy who is really afraid of losing the girl that he loves. And then on the flip side of it, like I see, with Jess, I see a thief, a guy who's trolling all of the people in her life that she likes, a guy who, when she asks to leave, "Please, will you leave right now? My boyfriend's coming over, will you leave?" says, "You don't really want me to leave." I'm like, wait, when was that? When is like,
I know.
Was that cool, So I I know it's a hot button topic. I'm sure there are going to be Jess fans out there that are going to be like, I hate Brian. But I also will say that I am absolutely prepared to change my mind. And I know that good writing constantly has you reevaluating characters, reevaluating how you feel about them. So as of right now, most of what I've seen from Jess has been a punk that that thinks that he gets what he wants, and it annoys me. But the last few episodes, I started to see a vulnerability in the character that has me going like, okay, like hold a beat. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something there. But as of right now, I'm Team Dean. In general, I think I relate to that character a little bit more, and I realize that it shouldn't be about me. But when you care about somebody, and at this point I care about Rory because I'm invested in the show, you want the person to be with somebody that you like.
Yeah.
And I like Dean. And as of right now, I don't really like Jess as a person. As a character, he is absolutely amazing. I mean, he has me, like all of these characters have me on the edge of my seat, like wondering what will happen next.
Absolutely.
I think, to be fair, the Team Jess debate doesn't really get that hot until season 5.
Yes.
And then you will inspire wrath. Like we've legitimately had people leave our group because of this issue.
Oh no, I don't want it to get like that. I mean,
no, it won't.
The community that's forming around this project, this Remarcus project, has been really great, really respectful. There are definitely folks on both sides. There's also some Logan folks that are like, wait, just
okay, good. You know about Logan.
They're like, we haven't gotten our chance to speak yet, so we're gonna hold our tongue, but for the most part, everyone is super cool, and I try and remind everyone as much as I can, like, these are fictional characters. Like, they do not actually exist.
Right.
We bring our own experiences, our own selves to these characters.
Exactly.
And so it's easy for us to get to take it personally, because sometimes when somebody says I don't like that character, it sounds like what they're saying is I don't like you, because if you find that you relate to that person, then you're like that person. I don't like that person, so I don't like you. And that's not really what it's about. Ultimately, we should understand that every one of these characters are beautiful because they all make this incredible story.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Definitely.
I completely agree. Everyone brings their own beauty to the storyline, and like you were saying, there's different aspects involved, but I think that's what's so beautiful about Gilmore Girls, because there are so many characters and that people can relate to as they're watching it. That's why there are teams, because people can relate to one over the other, and I think it's a cool fandom to be able to bring everybody together and to recognize that, that everybody brings something to the table, and that's what makes everything as a whole fantastic.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a good narrative, in a good story, the characters, they have flaws that allow you to sort of reevaluate yourself. And they also have, amazing aspects of their personality that surprise you and make you love yourself a little bit more. It's been really interesting, watching the show and watching Lorelai and Emily, right? The two mothers on this show, two parents on this show, as I am a new parent myself, right? I'm now thinking a lot about how do I want to be a parent to my daughter? How do I want my daughter to be raised? And, and so there've been lots of discussions in our group about parenting and this idea of best friend first, parent second, or should it be parent first and friend, best friend being sort of a high priority, but that parent sort of comes first. And who's right, Mia or Emily in this scene? Should Mia have called Emily and told her that her daughter was there? And it's interesting to have these discussions from the perspective of a new parent, because these are all things that are just on my mind right now. And I can put myself into the shoes of a Lorelai or into the shoes of an Emily and understand how she would be hurt by that. And I mean, just another reason why the show has lived as long as it has, in the hearts of the fans.
Absolutely. I think each generation benefits from it.
Yeah, and you also benefit from it as you age into the new generation, right?
Oh, that's true.
There are a lot of folks who are like, oh, I totally identified with Rory and with her struggle, but I was a teenager when I watched the show. Now I'm an adult and I have a kid, and I watch the show and I'm all in Lorelai's story and her struggle. that. So, I mean, it's brilliantly crafted in that way that like as you get older, there's a new person for you to love, you know?
And then they graduate to Emily. And
Right? Of course. And some have.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And I think that's the beauty of how they wrote the show. That's why it stands the test of time, because it's so well written, and the way Amy Sherman Palladino and Dan Palladino wrote these characters, they're realistic. They're so realistic, and they put human emotion into it instead of just a non-realistic futuristic character. They're real characters.
Yeah, they're real, but also larger than life, right?
I was gonna say.
They figured out a way to create something that does have a little bit of a fantasy quality to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, characters like Kirk and, you know, and Miss Patty sort of live on the cusp of fantasy. And the town of Stars Hollow is this kind of magical little town that makes so many fans of the show want to escape there, right? Like, I just want to spend some time in Stars Hollow. I mean, that's very much what folks who love, you know, Lord of the Rings feel about Lord of the Rings. They're like, oh, I want to just go to Hobbiton for a little while, right? It's the same thing. But then by the same measure, you have all of these real, and that's I think what you mean when you say you know, they're real characters, is that their struggles are real.
Yeah.
You know, their struggles are things that we absolutely relate to. And those are always presented in a very grounded, realistic manner.
Yeah.
So to answer your question about like, what are some of my favorite scenes? Well, season 1, I just loved the breakup scene between Rory and Dean in the car.
Oh.
Wow.
How that whole thing played out. Give you a car and then tell you I love you. You don't say it back. I start getting upset. You know, just the whole dynamic of that scene was just like,
Yes.
It was great. What are some other ones? You know, I tend to really love episodes that have large town feature stuff like Cinnamon's Wake, and you know this recent episode with the second town troubadour who left and became the farmer's market guy, and that whole farmer's market thing.
The long-haired freak.
Yeah, the long-haired freak. I tend to really love that stuff. The scene between Lorelai and maybe this is also a trend, is like a theme for the type of stuff that I really love, but the scene after Rory is in the hospital between Lorelai and Luke, when Lorelai is like, that kid is awful, and you know, and he's the cause of all this, and Luke is like, of course, afraid of what, you know, he's concerned about the safety of his nephew, and Lorelai's, you know, just unloading all of her anger and frustration on him, and there's just like, you know, peaked with the like, right back at you, you know. That whole scene was just really good, and that's probably a theme for a lot of the stuff that I really like. I like those charged scenes where people are able to just sort of get it out, like a lot of the Emily and Lorelai scenes where they kind of like hash it out are really good. And also the
those
scenes
get better.
When the ones where they come together again, like, you know, when she sits down and talks to her about her veil, where she, you know, at the end where she's like, Mom, you know, like this is the reason why I didn't tell you. Okay. It's like, I'm sorry, I should have told you. I didn't, but here's why, you know. And then Emily kind of being like, okay, I get it. Here's what you should wear a veil. You shouldn't wear a veil. You should wear a tiara. I wore a tiara. You know, just that kind of stuff is just cool. It's just magic. Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely. When you mentioned the car scene, my brother had actually seen the whole series before I did and my mom did. And usually my mom and I binge it together. And so the first time we went through the series, and when that scene came up with the car, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but he didn't give me any spoilers either, but he was like, just pay attention to that scene, and then of course how it played out. So it's there's some significant moments, you know, like that, like you've mentioned, or like with Emily and Lorelai. I love all those moments where they have that little mini breakthrough, you know, when you just see it in their faces. So yeah, those are some great moments.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other ones. I really love the relationship between Rory and her grandfather.
Yes.
Loved that episode with Lorelai and Richard, where she's his assistant for a very short amount of time.
I love that person.
He doesn't want to lose her, you know. I mean, just there's so many. We're going to actually do a night. Probably going to do it this Friday. I have a Gilmore happy hour scheduled in the Remarcus community, and I think what we're gonna do is probably look back at like the last 2 seasons, like sort of episode by episode, and I'm gonna try and remember how I'm gonna try and give my best assessment of how I feel about it now, you know, and how high I rate the episode, and it will probably be based on whether the episode still lives in my mind, you know, because there's some episodes where I was like, oh, that was good, but I have a feeling like it's just probably going to fade away. Whereas some episodes, I'm sure when you mention it, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I love that. I love that episode because of this scene, etc.
Yeah. That's, I really was hoping to get onto that cocktail hour tomorrow. When we do our podcast episodes, we always film at night, usually. So I've that's why I've only been able to make it to 2 of those things, because we usually do it at between 9 Eastern and 8 Eastern, somewhere in there.
Well, we're also recording them. They're going to eventually be available for people to listen again. And the watches are really great because we do 1, 2, 3, and everybody hits their play button. So the recording will be the same. You know, you'll just go. You'll hear me say 1, 2, 3, and you can just hit play and then listen to it as if you were there listening. But what's fun, I think, if you are there and you can grab a seat on what we call the couch, which is 15 folks who like get to the room early, raise their hand, and then I bring 15 folks on the couch, and I limit it to 15 because other than that, more than that, it gets way too rowdy.
Yeah.
But if you can make it onto the couch, it's really fun because it's just fun to chit chat during the episode. It really feels like we're all huddled around the same TV on a couch, just watching and gabbing along.
That sounds like the ideal Gilmore Girls experience, with the fans. I think that's just something so special when you can, watch together and chit chat about it and just, talk about what you just saw. It's such a wonderful experience for fans all over.
We're also doing a really fun, like every once in a while, there's a few community members who have been like also trying to infuse some of our events with some extra activities. So every once in a while, there'll be not inspired by me, really inspired by members of our community to do something a little different for a particular watch. Like, for example, for what is it called? Tisket a Tasket? A Tisket a Tasket? Mm-hmm. Was that the name of the episode?
Yeah.
The one with the picnic. Everybody who joined who came to the event, we all promised to do something picnic themed there for the watch, and we all posted photos of our picnic. So everyone had like picnic setups in their living room, like baskets and whatnot. We were doing that, and then for There's the Rub, we did the same thing, and everybody had like cucumber water. They were like taking pictures of themselves in robes with like avocado masks and all kinds of stuff. Like we were all pretending as though we were at a spa that day. We're gonna have lots more of that kind of stuff throughout this project. Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Amazing.
I'm excited for it.
Well, when you were on set, we just have, I know we're hitting our hour mark, so we just had a couple more questions.
No worry. We got time.
Okay, good. Awesome. Did you have a favorite place on set while you were filming?
Favorite place? Well, filming a television show can get quite boring at times because you're sitting around a lot, not doing anything. The amount, people don't realize the amount of time that you're actually actively doing what we all see you doing, right? Which is like the actual acting part. That's like at most maybe collectively an hour of the time that you spend there. The rest of the time, maybe. I mean, that might be exaggerating there. Some scenes take a lot longer to do. You're doing them over and over again, especially any shots that you see that are like a wider shot where there's just like a lot more in the environment. Those are typically much harder to shoot because there's a lot of action and things happening. And so very often they'll do, I mean, maybe 10, 15 of those in a row. And that can take a long time. But for the most part, a typical day shooting television is you're waiting for all of the lighting and all of the camera setup and all of that to happen. And that can take hours and hours and hours. So you then, there are two places that you spend a lot of your time. One, in your trailer. And then, if you're in your trailer, so is your scene partner or any of the other people that are in your scene. They're in their trailers too. So then it's really, you're just in somebody's trailer. Like everybody just converges into somebody's trailer. And then you're just hanging out as if you're all hanging out at somebody's house. Or you're at the craft services table and you're just eating red vines, which is dangerous. Is very dangerous. So my memories of the set was mostly hanging out at the craft services table because it was the only constant, right? Like every episode we were probably shooting in a different location around the lot, but the craft services table was always the same one. So it's the one I remember the most. In terms of the locations that we shot in, like which was my favorite to shoot in, it would be the apartment, which we haven't gotten to yet. However, I really enjoy pointing out, and that's something, the few bits of value that I bring to these watches is that I occasionally get to like point out something that everybody's like, whoa, I had no idea. And what I love pointing out is how many times in season 1 and season 2 characters are standing in front of or walking past the band's apartment, but you don't realize that it's the band's apartment. It's all over season 1 and 2. So I'm constantly being like, that's the band's apartment, and they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, that's exactly, that little driveway is where the sub shack, the sub van bus. So was it called Sub Shack? Was that the name of the?
I don't even remember.
Anyway,
I feel ashamed.
That's where the bus would be parked in our little driveway. And so yeah, that little apartment was really fun to shoot in because we just did a lot of really fun things in that apartment.
Awesome.
Like some of my favorite scenes to shoot in the episode, or really my favorite scene to shoot in the episode, was the scene between me, it was me, Todd, and Keiko, where I come in on their first date.
Oh, yep.
Yes.
And then
I go back to the room and I fall asleep, and then they have their hilarious like kissing goodnight at
with
her
your butt in her
door,
face,
but with my butt like right between them. Just that was so much fun. It was tough, but it was so much fun to shoot. And so
how many times did it take to get that without you laughing?
Well, I never laughed. It was actually really hard. It was really tough to, I mean, everyone else was laughing. The whole set was just like dying. So we knew that it was going to be it was going to be a really good scene. But it was really hard because he really slung me over his shoulder, and I was really truly over his shoulder, and his shoulder was like digging into my abdomen every time. And I was just like, I'm doing it for the art, man. I'm doing it. But it was so painful. And we had to do it. I mean, we must have done that shot like at least 10 times, and from different angles and whatnot. But ultimately, just hearing the whole crew laughing, like whenever they would call cut, like everybody laughing, just was like the fuel that we needed to get through that.
That was a great scene. I love that scene.
Yeah. Yes. I can't wait to see it for the first time. Well, I mean, I saw that scene, but like to see it in the context,
not all together,
in the context of the series,
it's different.
Really nice.
Absolutely. So, are there any memories that, I mean, beyond season 2, just from memory, that are your favorites so far that you haven't seen in the rewatch yet?
Yeah, Korean New Year and Korean New Year, big one. That was awesome. For so many reasons. Like I had to learn all of that Korean language stuff, and they gave me a CD, and I was like playing it every day in the car to try and get it all right. And then on set, there were a lot of Korean background talent in that scene, And they actually helped me, you know, I like they helped me like pronounce it right. So I'd be like asking other like background talent that was around, you know, in the shot with us, like can you say that for me again? Like, how am I doing? And you know, and they'd be like, great, you're doing it. So that was really nice. I have good memories from that. Pretty much any of the scenes where we were eating food were really fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got to take home a lot of really great, delicious leftovers at Korean New Year for about a week. And
my step grandmother is Korean, and so that was watching how they act out. She's very, very similar to how a lot of them were acting in the scene. She's very firm, but she's very black and white too.
Right. Yeah, that was a really fun one. That one comes to mind. He's slipping him bread dig. Is that one? The one where we get into the huge fight on stage. That one was really epic. That one was really epic because we actually had to like rehearse that. We had to rehearse that fight scene. So we had like a week of like, or not a week, maybe like a couple days of fight rehearsals with a fight choreographer to make sure that we got it right. And I totally got hurt in a couple of those because Sebastian was just so like, his energy level was like up here.
I love the way Todd Lowe kicks in that scene. It's almost girly. I love it.
Yeah. It was that was a really fun one. The scene at the little club at CBGB's was really fun. We actually shot that twice on two different the backstage scene where we're backstage in CBGB's. We actually had to shoot that twice because there was something that happened where I feel like they had something in the shot that wasn't cleared. Some like word written on one of the walls that wasn't cleared, and so we just all had to come back to the set like on a different day and reshoot it. Yeah, those are the ones that stand out, but I'm sure that there are others that I'm going to see and be like, oh, I remember that, I love that, but we'll see.
That's gonna
be you can tell us when you come back.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Or you can come join me while I watch it, and you can.
I love that idea.
I will.
The newness of Gilmore Girls to the eyes of somebody who's watching it for the first time.
I need a rewatch, so.
Yeah,
I've been perpetually rewatching since the lockdown first hit, and it's been just on restart. Hit the last episode and start the whole series all over again. So I've been perpetually binging it for a year.
I can see it. I understand it. It's a sticky show, and it really does. It's not just a sticky narrative. It's really it's just a place that you kind of want to go back to. Stars Hollow itself provides this really great place for fans to just sort of escape to.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's the magic. Part of what makes it such a huge fan favorite.
Absolutely.
The way you said that reminds me of a scene in season 6 that I hope I get to point out to you when it comes on.
Okay. Am I in it?
There you go.
No, but it was just the way you said makes you want to come back to Stars Hollow.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right.
Just keep it in mind.
Yeah.
One episode that I'm very eager for. I was in it, but that's not why I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it because I watched the majority of the episode. The part of the episode that's extraordinary, I watched it from a production standpoint and was like, ooh, that looks amazing. And that's the Festival of Living Art. I was in the episode.
Oh, yeah.
The reason why I'm most excited about it is because I actually remember being on set, walking past what they were shooting and being like, oh my God, that's amazing. And so I'm actually really, really looking forward to that. The believe it or not, the concert that we do for Jackson's
Jackson
selection thing. Can't wait for that. Yeah, a lot of really fun stuff. I mean, it's weird. It's like all kind of coming back to me, but I don't want it to because I want to experience it fresh.
It's still different watching it.
Yeah,
I think so. Memory versus watching it in context, as you were saying. I think you'll get the whole effect. It'll be awesome.
Good.
So Absolutely. You're aware of your last scene you filmed in A Year in the Life, right? Because obviously you were in that scene.
Yes, the last scene that I filmed in A Year in the Life would have been the movie theater scene.
Yes. So from that point on, is there a place, let's just say Gilmore Girls comes back again. Is there a place you would like to see Brian's character going or what you'd like to see him doing I always hoped he would get with Kiko's, what's her cousin's name?
Keon.
Yes.
Keon. Yeah. Suzanne. She's awesome. That would have been really cool if they had brought her back for the revival as well. Where would I like to see Brian? That's a tough question because I think that like I've kind of joked like, oh, I could see Brian having like started like started an app, an app startup, or like I could see Brian having like gotten into like crypto or something like, something nerdy like that. But ultimately, I think that what would be the most enjoyable would be to see that he's still like living like close by to Lane and Zach, and still very much in the lives of like their kids, that he's Uncle Brian.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, for Brian, I would just love to see, and this is also speaking, having not watched the episode. So I think I'll be able to answer this question a little bit better once I experience Brian as a fan rather than experiencing Brian as an actor in the show, because all I can really do is sort of bring my interests to the character, and I'm interested in apps, like, so, but I would really love to see, and I would have liked to have seen it in the revival. I would like to see that group try their hand at music again, because I feel like in the revival, there's like a little bit of like these characters are still kind of playing around, meeting and doing that. But for the most part, they're family. They're, family first and all of that. And I feel like it'd be cool if Lane's kids are already like going to college and suddenly Lane is like, I'm gonna, like, I'm now free. I want to do this now. I want to try and become, I want to get signed. I want to do concerts. I want to really be the musician, which I feel like that's where Amy and Dan wanted the main character to go. They wanted the band to eventually grow and for her to actually become, somebody who maybe was like a real big, rock band, and that, I think that would be really fun. I think that the fans would really like it. So Brian, a member of the band, and that we have like a record deal and there's all of that fun stuff. I could see, and this is just, this is not me like wishful thinking. I mean, I'm not really acting anymore. And it's not really something that I'm like pursuing right now, but I could see a spinoff of Gilmore Girls from the band's perspective.
Yes.
And
awesome.
I can see that.
And does that. But that's not, again, that's just me like just sort of speaking even actually from like a writer's perspective, like, oh, that would be a fun show, if they
that could be your tour, only it's a spinoff.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
We'll see.
Awesome.
I'll have more. I think I'll have more insight into that question. Of like where do I see Brian? Where do I see the band? 20 years later.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Once
Absolutely.
I get to it.
We'll definitely have to do this again once that rewatch is over. We'll join you, and then you can join us again.
Did they show Lane and Zach's kids in the revival? I'm trying to remember.
Briefly, when Rory goes over to their house and Zach's just getting off of work, and you and Sebastian Bach are already there in the house practicing, warming up.
Okay.
And Zach goes into the kitchen. He says, "It's not my fault. I didn't want the promotion." And you see the kids sitting there, and he greets them. And then...
Okay. So yeah, I don't remember that at all. Okay.
I watch this once a year, or more. So.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, yeah. We'll see.
10.
What's up?
They're 10, so I think that's doable to have them off to college in the next one.
They're 10, of course. They're 10 because they were
and
born
that released 5
They were born in
ago.
season 7, right? Yeah, they were born in season 7. And so it was released. Yeah, exactly. So they would be going to college. Like if the show somehow was able to revive in any other incarnation, like somewhere near 2025, like then those kids would be going to college, and I could see maybe Lane Zach seeing that as their opportunity to, like, you know, now we're not focused on being parents 24/7. Let's try and make a push at this. Let's try and actually become a band. Let's try and get a deal. Let's do our own songs and all of that. That would be fun.
That would be really fun.
Giving some dreams to the fans. Let me just clarify. that is not by any means a prediction for what will happen. I have no idea if Amy and David or any of them want to continue to tell this story. I get that question all the time. Is there another Gilmore Girls coming? As if I would know.
The entire fandom just fainted as one.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I do not know.
Kind of on that note, we always like to end our interviews with is there anything that you're working on now that you can let us? I know we're talking about the Remarkist app.
Remarkist. Yeah, that's the project that I'm really passionate about right now. I've got some other projects that I'm like that are kind of like on the back burner that are simmering right now. But the Remarkist project, which kind of came out of nowhere and was really just inspired by this idea of rewatching the show, is now sort of growing into its own little thing that, you know, could potentially become like, you know, we're watching all kinds of shows and movies together, not just Gilmore Girls. And anyone who's interested in joining us for these Gilmore Girls watches, or potentially, you know, joining the community as it grows, can go to remarkist.com, and I have a little app there. They can, you know, put it onto their phone, and they can see when we're all meeting to watch Gilmore Girls. They can experience Gilmore Girls as I watch it for the first time, which is going to be fun as we start getting into some of the scenes that I was in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really the main thing that I'm focused on right now.
Awesome.
Thanks.
That's fantastic. We're super excited.
Yeah. I know Amanda's got to jump off, so I want to give her an opportunity. Do you have anything else you want to ask John before you head off?
No, I just want to say I appreciate it. I do have to jump off. No problem. I got a meeting, but it
was very nice.
I really appreciate talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to coming back and chatting with you some more.
Definitely. I'll look forward to it. And I already have the Clubhouse app, but I'm definitely going to jump in one time. I'm going to make that.
Great. Yeah. If you go to remarkist.com, you can read all about the project, and all of everything that you need to get up to speed with us is all there.
Great. I'm going to do that tonight. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, Amanda.
Bye.
I feel like we could talk with you forever, because I feel like you have a lot of good stuff to say, and it's fun talking with you. I like how relational you are. It makes it very easy to have a conversation with you. So we appreciate you coming on.
Right back at you.
And we are going to have you back on. So we will, and we'll start doing those rewatches with you on Clubhouse.
We should have you on with Sean Gunn next time. That would be a fun episode.
Have you booked Sean?
No, we just reached out to him.
Yeah, we just reached out to him. We have a mutual friend with him, so hopefully we'll be able to get him booked sooner rather than later. So
nice.
But that would be a fun show.
Yeah, I mean, if please let me know. He would be fun to chat with.
Absolutely, we'll definitely let you know.
All right, thank you so much, John, and we will be seeing you soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We
Bye.
so appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks.